I'm Andy Ellis. I'm the host of this show and a potential Green Party candidate for governor of Maryland in 2026. I'm using this show to highlight interesting people and ideas that help me and you to understand what is happening and what is possible. You can learn more about the campaign by going to gogreen2026.com. Guests on this show do not necessarily support my campaign or the Green Party. They've agreed to come on to discuss ideas and issues. And of course, click the subscribe button on YouTube so you can keep up to date with this podcast. Hello and good evening. It is October 14th, 2024, a little more than 20 days till Election Day. And we're continuing a season of podcasts focused on down-ballot Green Party candidates running for office all over the country. Tonight, we're focusing right here in my own backyard in Baltimore, Maryland, and talking to Renaud Brown, who is running for Baltimore City Council District 14. Renaud is an educator, an accomplished musician, and a proud union member. Renaud has been active with peace and justice and electoral reform work for 10 years. He was a co-chair of the Baltimore County Green Party, secretary of the Maryland Green Party, and delegate to the Green Party National Committee. He ran for state delegate in District 43A, a two-member district, and he finished in third place, continuing the long Baltimore Green Party tradition of beating the Republican candidate. He's also continuing another long Baltimore City Green Party tradition of making sure that there's a Green running for City Council, something we've done every election since 2003. I'm excited to have my friend and colleague Renaud Brown join the show tonight. Renaud, how you doing?
Good.
Good. I'm glad to have you on tonight. Excited to get to talk about some of your campaign a little bit. Let's get some things set up here. All right, here we go. All right, so let's get started. Renaud, how did you get involved in politics?
Well, I guess it just became natural to me. Over the course of the time, I've been trying to think of, was there someone in my family that maybe influenced me to do electoral work? And during the time of cleaning my mom's condo after her passing, I found something from my maternal grandmother, who I was fortunate to have until I was 8 years old. And I saw that there was something that was saying that she was interested in social justice and caring for people. So I guess that's something that's I can kind of think about as a journey on. But yeah, I think it's just kind of natural. My very first election was actually in 2008, voting for Barack Obama.
Oh, so that was the first election that you had a chance to vote in, was 2008?
Yeah. Sadly enough, I was a college student in 1996 and again in 2000. I did 5 years of undergrad because I had so much coursework, and
Got you.
as a music major, and so I didn't hear anything about I can vote or where to vote. And years later, my friends were like, "Oh, you could have voted," but no one's ever came to me, and so I don't know what happened in 2004. But finally, when I was in grad school at Morgan, I stood in line, long line. I never forget it. Barbara Mikulski shook my hand. I never forget that election.
Barbara Mikulski shook your hand at your first election where you were voting for Barack Obama?
Yes.
That is pretty unforgettable, and so I think that's a good memory. And from there on, I know in 2022 you ran for state delegate, and this year you're running for city council. What made you decide to run for city council?
Well, I wanted to run, since I started running, I wanted to continue to run. And, I want to get Baltimore back to the thriving city it used to be. Um, I'm tired of the failed one-party system. You know, as I live in my community as a homeowner, I see the needs. I see the needs for East Baltimore, and I want to do something about that.
Got you. And city council, was a good position for you to run for. It's local, it's Baltimore City, and it lets you address this in this cycle. Tell us a little bit about your district. Tell us about the 14th.
I've done some research, trying to see. It, it's deemed as the most progressive in this entire city. I kind of see that. I mean, in 2014, councilmanic districts actually decreased. We're talking about, decreasing and being against decreasing councilmanic districts. But at one point, there were, 19 people sitting on the council, and there were 6 districts. And so Mary Pat Clark, she served a long time on the council as council president. Now we have Odette Ramos in her first term. Um, Also, I noticed that as I reached out to voters, there are many progressives, especially in Apple and near Hopkins.
So, progressive district that had a real long time champion of the city council on it now has a new first time council person. And does your district include Johns Hopkins?
Yes, it includes Apple, I would say Waverly, and Charles Village.
Got you. Got you. So you mentioned earlier that we have a one-party city here in Baltimore City. I know you and I know about that, but talk a little bit about the state of democracy in Baltimore City. What is it like to not be a Democrat here?
Very, 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 very challenging. I think, the state of democracy is just for 80 years now, the city has been quite underserved. And, we have members of the council who are trying to, you know, right the wrongs of even the mayor's trying to right the wrongs of its racist past. But there's just so much work to be done.
Yeah, and you're one of the few contested races that are occurring this time around. Most of the council, I think, is going through without an opponent, and I think that just speaks to the sort of to the state of democracy in the city. That it's up to Greens, it's up to the Green Party in a lot of cases to provide opposition, because there's just many of these races are uncontested after the primary. And I think that's not healthy for a city like this. A small number of people, even if they're the majority party, a small number of people are determining most of the council seats in a Democratic primary. And I think it's really good that you're giving voters an opportunity to see something other than that, because I think so many people are so used to not having any choices beyond the primary. So,
Yeah,
um,
and it's interesting because I finally got a chance to go to a chum meeting, and they were like, "Oh, we thought she was uncontested. We didn't know you there was another candidate on the ballot." And I think that means a lot because I'm trying to win not just the election, but if that's not fruition, I like to get some precincts, and so my immediate area is very important. And I noticed that it's the district that I've noticed the most colored people in.
mhm, mhm.
I mean, area of the district.
You're part of the district. The sort of southeast part of the district is almost is very heavily black precinct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Renaud, why did you join the Green Party? How did you end up going from Barack Obama in 2008 to running as a Green Party person, a seasoned Green by 2024?
Well, I mean, My political vitae is that. So I voted 2008 as a Democrat, I believe. By the next election, 2010, I had changed to an independent. And I don't know how that came about, but other than to say, that year it was a re-election of Martin O'Malley, and I knew that there was some ties with Sheila Dixon, and I was like, I don't want to down ballot these Democrats. I want to, what if I, and I, I might have chose a libertarian that year because I didn't know any better, but I knew that I wasn't always going to vote, you know, for the Democratic Party. And so in March of 2017, I moved to Baltimore County from Prince George's. And I think that since my time in Baltimore, I've been the most, well, I won't kind of the eh, my activism started about 2024, I guess, with my electoral work. Um, and mind you, I was in the middle of being unemployed that lasted from January 2014 to May of 2017, which was a few months after I'd moved to Baltimore. So I think the city of Baltimore has actually provided me a lot of opportunity since I've been here. But I was on Facebook, and Mark McCullough, may he rest in peace, invited me to a meeting, and I and I hit the ground running, and I've been an active member of the Green Party since then.
And what made you, you went to that first meeting, Mark McCullough invited you to a meeting. What did you hear there that you liked? What did you hear that spoke to your values and your beliefs?
I don't know. I think that particular year, the party had a lot of growth. I mean, their meetings were like maybe 30 people, and they met at the Towson Library there. And it was a pretty exciting thing for a campaign, a political party or campaign at the time. And I just I carried it over. I moved to Baltimore City, and I remained. Um, and as an independent, it's kind of hard to kind of get that, but I'm glad I got it, and I found a home.
Yeah, I always love to hear people's story about how they came to the Green Party. A lot of times it is like, well, somebody sent me an invite and I decided to check it out, and I decided that the values spoke to me or that the people were interesting. And I think that's it's so different from being a Democrat in Baltimore City, for example, because there's a whole infrastructure, there's places to plug in, there's activities. But if you're not in the Democratic Party, it's hard to find a political home in a place like this. And one of the things I'm excited about with the Green Party is, no matter how good or bad it's going, I think we've managed to be a home for people who are looking for a political home a lot of times. And I'm glad you came in 2017, and I'm glad you stuck around.
Yep.
So, um, so how's your campaign going? We're 20 days away from election day. You've been doing this. You've been running this campaign for a while. I know you've talked to a lot of voters. How are you feeling about it?
I feel I mean, compared to the last one, I think, even if it has been just me, uh, you know, I, I can't, eh, I've spent a lot of time and effort, and I think, you know, um, I had the help of one other person, but, I think that, reaching the number of people that I was able to reach, it will show in absentee votes. But the thing is that, our meeting on Sunday and, to get people to the polls, I think is really critical at this point. And I'm
Yeah.
just, I'm watching the numbers. At this point. So,
Yeah. And,
and
I
again,
know,
getting precincts.
yeah. And, as I was saying before, we've run a city council candidate. For those who don't know, we've run a city council candidate, at least one city council candidate in Baltimore every year since the 2003 election. So I think there's people in this area who are more used to than maybe than in some other places, seeing Green Party candidates and understanding that that's a thing that happens. And so I know that I've been helping you with some of those walk sheets. How many doors have you gotten to? How many voters have you talked to?
Well, with the number, the goal that I had for reaching doors is kind of hard to stop and say, but I think I've gotten enough dissent from people. Some people that I was able to talk to. Some people, you know, and I think that I'm just I I did what I can do, and that's all I can do. But I think we'll see.
Yeah, and you've been out there doing it for a long time, going to community associations, talking to folks, knocking on doors, and I'm excited to see what the results are for you come election day. And I want to get to some of the issues. Um, I want to get to some of the issues that are really important to you and to your district. But I wanted us to ask one question real quick before we get to that: has the Green Party been helpful to you at the national level? Have you gotten any support from the coordinated campaign committee? Have you, in any other ways that the Green Party has been helpful for you?
Um, the one thing I noticed is that for one reason or another, I lost a lot of my donors that I had. But thanks to the National Party and its contribution, I've gained a few. And, their grant, with their help of the party, um, I was able to mail out 480 um, things to apartments, which is, I was going through your absentee things, and it seems like most of these people live in apartments, but I'm thankful that I got to some of those people.
Yeah. And I'm glad that the National Party was able to help you with some of that. That's exactly, I think, what the grant program from the Coordinated Campaign Committee is designed to do, is to help candidates, get that boost so that they can do an important mailing or get some door knockers or something like that. So I'm glad that that was helpful for you. And again, like I said, I'm excited to see how it turns out as we go toward election day. So I want to shift now and talk about some of the issues that are important to you and some of the issues that are important to your district. I want to start with this charter amendment about Harbor Place. So, if anybody's ever been to Baltimore, the Inner Harbor was developed as this like downtown commercial pedestrian area that everybody could come to. It's the aquarium is there, the science center is there, a bunch of pavilions are there, and things like that. But recently, a lot of that has started. A lot of the businesses have started to leave, and it has started to feel not like a new, fresh downtown area, but sort of like a dated mall on the harbor a little bit. And so the city council, including your opponent, proposed a amendment that would give a developer several $100 million in order to develop a new harbor place, and it has some big apartment towers, which was something that didn't exist before. And it's been a big deal, and it's been in the courts, and it's been really controversial. So, Renaud, what is your stance on the Harbor Place Charter Amendment?
I have successfully got a lot of comments on Facebook to encourage people to say no, vote no against it. Um, there's no reason why housing should be developed on that harbor. It should be an open green space, period. And it can use a little retail because I think, the effects of COVID has really shuttered, there's not much. I mean, it shuttered the businesses there. But I mean, Baltimore is no short of, places to eat, but you drive up to North Avenue and you drive through the city. I mean, we really need to stay focused on getting these vacants rehabbed, the ones that can be, and the plan that the governor has put forth and the mayor. That's what I'm focused on.
So no on Harbor Place, and your opponent is a yes on Harbor Place, right?
And so are 13 other for her council.
I think my council
And
person
five
was.
of them or four of them are leaving, or thankfully leaving.
I do think I think it's 12 others because I think my council person was the only no, right?
Yeah, it was the only no. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So no on Harbor Place. You mentioned affordable housing and housing and vacant rehab. What is your take on housing and affordable housing in Baltimore?
I want to continue the efforts of this council person, Ramos, uh, with housing, rehabbing housing, and there are several. I've kept keeping track. There's several projects going on around the city. Um, yeah.
So more focus on affordable housing for people in your district and in places that need it. Less focus on big shiny towers on the harbor that rich people are going to go to. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Exactly.
All right. Okay. So anything else on affordable housing?
No, other than uh, work on the tax sale. I guess increasing the amount of uh, taxes on the vacant properties, but we just need to get rid of them. We need to bring people back into the city.
Yep. And so um, the tax sale is a thing where people's homes are getting taken away from them because they get behind on taxes or something like that. And people may have inherited a home from their grandma or something like that, and the home gets taken away from them because something is bad with taxes. What is something you think what can we do about that? About the tax sale?
Well, I think that I was told this is a more of a problem for the state and Annapolis, but there are way too many foreclosures, and it's getting to the point where I can see that they're just not foreclosing, but people are going bankrupt. That's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. People with houses, and I think this has been an issue in the city for so long, is, working class people have a house, and they have a house that maybe they were able to afford at some point, or maybe they inherited from a relative or something like that. And the bank and the city keep taking those houses away. And so if we need to go down to Annapolis and make sure that we're standing there, I find me and I'll go down there with you anytime, whether you get elected or not. Let's go down there and make sure people stop getting their houses taken away. So, all right. One of the things that I saw on your website that I was really intrigued by is a bill to place trash cans around the city. And I really want to hear more about this idea because I think there's so much interestingness. There's so much that's interesting about it. I want to hear you talk about it a little bit.
That's funny. I was trying to figure out where that came from, but it actually is is something that I think about as I'm cleaning around my neighborhood.
There's this
But
Go ahead.
I will gladly do that because I think that particularly, working with the MTA, I mean, every bus stop should have one. And I mean, The city, I saw a hearing about rat abatement, um, and Councilwoman Danielle um,
McCray, right?
McCray
Yeah.
is chair of that, and they're like, this, unless the city is clean, it's kept more clean, they're what they do to keep the rats out won't work. And it's just horrible. And you having folks coming into the city cleaning up your city.
And sometimes it really is just as simple as put trash cans at bus stops, put trash cans in more places, and then make sure there's people there to pick it up.
I've placed two trash cans. There's a trash can right across the street, and it does help. And even people are putting bags in the trash can, which I'm thankful for. And then I placed a trash can on Kirk Avenue because the bus stop didn't have one. And again, I think like the Arc keeps that trash can emptied, and I've seen them, and they keep a bag in that trash can. So it is helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's it's one thing to walk around the city and notice all the trash. It's another thing to walk around the city and notice how few trash cans there are, you know. And I think I love an idea that is just to make sure there's more trash cans around. I mean, that doesn't solve all of the problem, but it does solve a lot of the problem, and it goes a long way. And without that, there's no way to solve the rat problem. Without, like there's gonna be rats if there's trash everywhere.
Yep.
Okay, I love that one. Know you were an educator, and I know you have a lot of thoughts about city schools and things like that. Talk to me about education in Baltimore City.
Well, I tend to focus on accountability for the blueprint. We're the fourth largest funded pupil funding per pupil in the state. And Santa Lisa's has another year, which I hope is her last. She I, and it's scary to think about that, because who can be, a better suited, strong suited person to take that role?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not easy to be the commissioner of Baltimore City or the school CEO of Baltimore City. It's a big school system. It's got a lot of challenges, but I think the next council will probably have a role in picking that replacement. And I think accountability is a good focus for that, and making sure that the blueprint for readers. Renaud, do you want to say what the blueprint is for anybody who might be listening?
I'm trying to think. It's funding, like a formula funding source that is has been legislated by the Annapolis. I'm not sure the period of time. I think by 20, is it to 2027? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and I mean it's definitely a long-term funding of public schools in Maryland in a way that is, is really a big deal. It's a lot of money going into it, and the state of Maryland is facing real financial crises for it. And I think your call for accountability for that is going to be important. I mean, we're going to go into all sorts of things are getting cut to fund the blueprint. Transportation's getting cut, community colleges are getting cut. All those things are getting cut to do it, and we got to make sure that that money is being spent in a way that is helping kids if we're spending all those tax dollars on that. So I definitely think accountability for the blueprint is an important area for the next council to focus on. How about the Hopkins Police Force? Johns Hopkins University has been given authority to have a private police force patrol the campus and all sorts of parts of the city. What's your take on this private police force for Johns Hopkins patrolling your district?
Well, I am very against private entities, private public partnerships, anything that has to do with private. It's not good.
Yeah, and so this police force it isn't done yet. It's been authorized, but it isn't implemented yet. And so, as city council person, would you try to stop it from getting implemented or try to fight against it?
Well, I do. I have a link uh, uh, regarding its policies, and I was trying to see where it was. I think as of July of this year, um, and there's nothing else that's been done with that project.
Got you. Well, I hope you can get into the council and help stop that private police force because uh, I agree with you, especially when it comes to policing. We don't want private police forces. We have a hard enough time holding the city police accountable, and I can't
Yeah,
imagine.
it says something about equity and all that stuff. So I would really like to take a look at all that.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that there will be somebody on the council taking a look at that. Um, and because it's a big deal, like having a private police force patrolling your district. It's not just campus security. They have the ability to patrol off campus, and like all sorts of the people of your district will be dealing with it. So I hope if you win this race, you can make this an issue and put some attention on it. So let's talk about labor issues. I know. Well, yeah. What is your take on labor issues facing workers in this city, facing unions in this city? What are some things that you think need to happen with that?
Well, that's a very excellent question because I've been dealing quite a bit with Unite Here. I mean, currently you have over the nation, you have Hyatt's and Hilton's. They're going on strike. They're trying to negotiate contracts, including in Baltimore, um, and so much so that Levy, who was at the Orioles, has taken M&T, and it's pushing back our negotiation with them, which they are asking for just a year to begin with. But that could be December, it could be January, and we're already into the season. Uh, but yeah, it's a big deal. You know the I sat in on the Hyatt negotiation because I wanted to get out of outside of food services, and so uh, just for my learning. And but it's just the common thing is these rich people don't want to pay their workers. I mean, with the Hyatt, I mean the Hilton, um, the lawyer was like, trying to figure out, and then it's like, oh, if within 48 hours they don't pay their workers, pay discrepancy, um, then they finally came up with they'll pay them out of their petty cash. But and then it was brought up that people might have auto payments. I know I had to stop a lot of auto payments because of the situation I'm in now. So, but people expect their money to get paid on time, and you know, eh, it's just awful.
Right. Like rich corporations should be able to pay their working class employees on time, and the burden shouldn't be on the employees. It should be on the employer. That seems totally straightforward.
Mhm.
And the fact that the fact that the union has to fight for that just strikes me as absurd, but strikes me as why it's really important to have a union.
Mhm.
So I think that dovetails with one of the things that I know you ran on in 2022 and is an important issue for you now, which is ending at will employment. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, wow, you're popping up new questions, but it's good. Um, that's also been an issue that I've been petitioning probably since about 2014. Um, but yeah, it's the state of Montana is the only state that they have what's called a wrongful disclosure act. Um, but they don't consider, they don't they're not considered an at-will state. The only one. Um, one time I spent some time in New York, and I was looking through like because there's so many exceptions to it, and but in Maryland it seems just so vague. But yeah, 74% of workers are considered at will, and that means they have no, no. If you get fired, it doesn't matter what for. You have no defense. Just like me, I worked in Baltimore City a while ago before I recently subbed for about 5 years, um, and was let go because I didn't get a chance to defend myself. I mean, like some students use their words against me, and because I'm an at-will employer, doesn't matter, and it's not right.
Right. And just like in that situation we were talking about before, if the employer is late with their pay and the employee complains, if they're at will, well, like, is it even worth it for them to complain because they could be let go the employer could come up with a reason and let them go. So I think that issue is important. And I think a lot of people in the city would benefit from having a good focus on that. So, anything else on labor issues you want to talk about?
Um, no, I think I'm good.
Okay, so I know another thing that you've been involved with is some transit issues. I know you've been a part of the Red Line or the Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition fighting for the Red Line. Talk to me about transit. Talk to me about what you think about mass transit in Baltimore City.
Well, we definitely need the red line, um, and I think a perfect transit hub will be like developing Howard Street. The two light rails will connect at some point along there. Um, but yeah, rather than that's maybe David Bramble can help us there with that and develop or
And so, yeah, so like developing out Howard Street so that it is transit friendly and then redeveloping the businesses along that. Is that sort of what you're thinking?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that'd be great.
that was sorry, that was supposed to be the Bromo, man. Where's the Bromo gonna go?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's so many parts of the city that really need the investment, really need
Mhm.
the vision. Like some of the plans that David Bramble has for Harbor Place are great, but like we need to see that type of thing in other parts of the city that have long been needing that investment and are not places that are just tourist places, but are places that people live and work and have to go through every day. And I think, I love the idea of putting the focus that we're putting on Harbor Place on Howard Street. It's been needing the focus for decades, and let the light rail be the driver of it. And let's rebuild that back to what it once was, because before Harbor Place was where everybody went when they came to downtown Baltimore, Howard Street was where everybody went when they came to downtown Baltimore. So yeah, I mean, I think I love that idea, and I'm glad to see the work on the red line going forward, but I don't think the fight around transit ends once the red line gets built. So, I know another thing that you've been active and engaged with is some of the stuff happening in South Baltimore with CSX and the Bresco incinerator. Talk about some of those things. I know they're separate issues, but they're united by folks fighting against them. What do you think about the Bresco incinerator?
Again, it's an environmental injustice to the city, and I don't know for how long, but too long. Yes, Bresco we need to end business with Bresco and end business with CSX.
Yeah, and I mean, it really just is sometimes as simple as that. A lot of times people say like it's really complicated and we got to do this and we got to do that. But maybe it doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe we can end business with the people who are polluting the communities, and just move on from there and save the people who are being, having coal dust and medical incineration and trash incineration. All of that stuff just doesn't need to happen anymore. So,
And
anymore.
I'm curious, like, who actually, I don't know if it's done in our state, but who actually recycles the way it should be and compost? Because all that stuff should not be thrown together. I mean, so it doesn't matter it really doesn't matter what Baltimore City puts in this recycle bin. They got to take it all. I mean, they should just take it because it doesn't matter if it's not truly recycled. So there's no place to recycle it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'd love to see us move toward a city-run composting system. Like, I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and there's a lot of people doing that work who know what the solutions are. We just need to get them the resources to implement it. So, all right. Well, when you win this race and you're in the council, I'm going to be coming to you asking for curbside composting, because I'd love to see that. It makes such a difference, and we know that we know folks in the zero waste movement have been pushing it, and we need a council person to get behind it.
Yep.
So, all right. One last question about issues. Let's talk about campaign finance. What do you think about money in politics? What are the solutions to that ever-present problem?
So, definitely we need to, I guess, implement our fair elections funding as a source for candidates. But certainly, my work with GMOM, we were successful in 2015. We got the Maryland Senate to pass our resolution to overturn basically Citizens United. And then in 2018, we finally got the approval of the Speaker Bush, in the House of Delegates, but not passed in both. So it's been COVID, and I would say it's been about 4 years since we even introduced it, and now GMOM is doing democracy things and pushing for the Democrats, which I'm opposed to do, but they're certainly finding other efforts at this point.
Yeah, and that feels like very much the story of this election cycle and of Maryland politics. A lot of times, is our former allies often end up pushing for the Democrats and abandoning the important work that they were doing. But hopefully a good election showing for you can turn that around, and we can start focusing a little bit more on what we know are the value-based solutions that get money out of politics, get trash out of incineration, recycle, get good transit, have our developers focus on our city instead of our harbor. And so it sounds like you got a really good set of issues here. Is there anything else, any other issues you want to talk about before we move on?
That was a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot of issues. That was a lot of issues. So let's zoom out a little bit here, and instead of getting really deep in the issues, let's talk about what are your organizing goals? What is the next step for you? I know you're hoping to win a couple of precincts, maybe win the race on the 5th, but win or lose, what's the next step for you, and what are your organizing goals?
I really want to get more into like policy initiated things. I actually took my at will proposed legislation when I was in Baltimore County. I spoke with Delegate Pat Young, and at the time was Senator Nathan Pulliam, and was trying to like brainstorm, where this would, where it would best fit. But I think I need to get back to doing that. Um,
So
I think Caitlin
focus on
Young might be,
policy and legislation.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Caitlin Young may be a good person to help with that. Actually, Corey McCrae's office is pretty good too.
So is that really your big policy goal? Is this ending at will employment in Maryland?
That's just for starters. Yeah.
And
I also want to. I'm thinking in 2026, running for our district 45 as a delegate. And I was really focused, as you were 4 years ahead of time, focused on the governorship, doing a mayoral run.
yeah, and so thinking about running for state senate or state delegate next time.
I'm going to stick with a delegate position.
Excellent. Yeah, well, good luck with that. And I think the 45th district is certainly bigger than the 14th district, but it's a good district to run in. And I think this at will employment and this labor and really focusing in on the labor issues is a really good way to do that in that district. I think there's a lot of people who are working in really precarious situations for big employers like Johns Hopkins and things like that, who I think could really benefit from having a champion in the district. So beyond that, for you, what is the sort of big vision of what you would love to see, when you retire, when you're done with politics and you look back and you say things have gone well? What would you love to see in Maryland to make it a better place and a better place to live?
Well, Baltimore is as charming as it is named. I think Baltimore, with a population it once had, Baltimore would continue less crime, working class, and economy as great as its neighbors.
That's a good vision, and I think a lot of people here would love to see the city grow instead of shrink. Would love to see the industry come back and return to the real sort of Black working class roots that made this city what it once was, and not really just Black working class roots, working class across race, across nationality. And I think that there's a lot of folks who believe in Baltimore, even while they're disappointed about what's happening right now. So, I'm excited to work with you toward that vision and get to us, make us a growing city again, and making us a proud working class city like we once were. So, Renaud, is there any Renaud, how do people get in touch with you? How do they follow your campaign, follow you on, and follow your information?
Is there a place? Did you turn the chat off? Or
So, well, you can see I got your website up here.
yeah, that's Friends of Renaud Brown.
Okay, Friends of Renaud Brown is the email. Renaud, you there?
I'm here.
Yep. Okay. So we got your website up. We'll put your Facebook in the show notes and all of that. We are getting close to our time here. Is there anything you want to say before we're done?
I hope that I will be a good candidate, and I hope that I'll get your vote on November 5th or sooner. And I look forward to meeting you at the polls.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Renaud. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to you about this. And I know you got like 20 days left, so I appreciate you taking the time right before we get up to the election to come in and tell people what you're about, what your issues are, and how you got here. And I wish you good luck on November 5th, and we'll catch back up after that. See how you feel like it went. See what you feel like is happening next. And thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you to Renaud for coming on tonight. He is running here in Baltimore City Council for the 14th District. We'll make sure we get the information in the show notes so you can go check that out. And then tomorrow night, we will be having Toya Lopez coming on. And Toya is running for a state delegate seat in Minneapolis. And I'm excited to talk to Toya as well. So thank you all so much. I appreciate the opportunity to do the show with you tonight and to highlight green candidates running up and down the ballot across the country as we approach this year's election day. See you soon. Thank you.